You've been lied to. For decades, eggs were treated like poison, blamed for heart disease, high cholesterol, and early death. But here's what nobody told you. The science that started that panic was funded by the sugar industry, and the researchers who pushed it knew the data was flawed. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what happens inside your body when you eat eggs every single day. Your metabolism, your brain, your hormones, your vision, all of it changes, and not in the way you were taught to fear. This video is your complete no-nonsense breakdown of the real nutritional power behind eggs. You'll understand why your liver is the one actually controlling your cholesterol, not your breakfast, and why switching your morning meal could be the single most affordable health decision you make this year. No supplements, no expensive programs, just the truth, backed by modern science. If you've ever avoided eggs out of fear, felt confused by conflicting nutrition advice, or simply want to know what you should actually be eating to feel stronger, think clearer, and age better, this video is for you. Stay until the end, because the last benefits are the ones nobody ever talks about, and they might completely change how you see this everyday food. There is something deeply uncomfortable about realizing that a health belief you have held for most of your life was never actually built on solid ground, not distorted, not oversimplified, just wrong. And when it comes to eggs, that is exactly what happened. Generations of people pushed eggs off their plates, switched to dry toast and sugary cereals, and genuinely believed they were making the healthier choice. Meanwhile, the real culprits behind rising rates of obesity, sluggish metabolism, and cardiovascular decline were sitting right there on the breakfast table in the form of processed grains, refined sugars, and laboratory-engineered fats. The egg became the scapegoat for a food industry that needed a villain, and that lie cost millions of people one of the most nutrient-dense, fat-burning, metabolism-supporting foods nature has ever produced. Let's start with the cholesterol conversation, because, until we dismantle this fear completely, nothing else will land the way it should. When researchers in the 1960s began connecting dietary fat and cholesterol to heart disease, the narrative was convenient, simple, and marketable. Avoid cholesterol in food, and your blood cholesterol will drop. The problem is that this is not how human physiology works. Your liver is not a passive bystander. It is an intelligent, adaptive organ that produces approximately 75 to 80% of the cholesterol circulating in your bloodstream, regardless of what you eat. When you consume more dietary cholesterol, your liver compensates by producing less. When you eat very little cholesterol, it ramps production back up. The body is always seeking equilibrium, and eggs do not override that system, they work within it. What actually happens when someone begins eating eggs consistently is that their HDL cholesterol, the protective kind, tends to rise. Their LDL particles, the ones people fear, shift from small and dense, which is the genuinely dangerous form, to large and buoyant, which carries significantly less cardiovascular risk. Triglyceride levels frequently improve as well, particularly when eggs replace high-carbohydrate morning meals that spike insulin and promote fat storage. This is not fringe science. This is the consensus that has been building in peer-reviewed research for the last 20 years, and it directly contradicts the message most people still carry around. Now let's talk about why eggs are so remarkably effective for anyone focused on weight loss or trying to lose belly fat, because the mechanism goes far deeper than most fitness content ever explains. The goal of any successful fat-burning strategy is not simply to eat less, it is to keep your metabolism active, your muscle tissue preserved, and your hunger hormones regulated in a way that makes discipline feel natural rather than forced. Eggs do all three simultaneously. The protein inside an egg is not comparable to the protein found in processed shakes, canned meats, or even whole cuts of chicken and fish. Egg protein has a biological value of 100%, meaning your body absorbs and utilizes every single gram with zero waste. This level of efficiency is unmatched in the natural food world. Beef sits around 75 to 80%, fish around 80 to 85%, chicken at approximately 79%. With eggs, nothing is left on the table. Every gram activates cellular repair, supports lean muscle maintenance, and keeps your metabolism elevated. Because muscle tissue is metabolically expensive, meaning the more of it you preserve, the more calories your body burns at rest even while you sleep. The satiety factor alone should make eggs a cornerstone of any healthy meal plan. Studies have repeatedly shown that people who eat eggs in the morning consume significantly fewer calories throughout the rest of the day, not because they are trying to restrict, but because the combination of high-quality protein and natural fats in the yolk sends powerful signals to the hormones that regulate hunger. Ghrelin, the hormone that drives appetite, stays suppressed for hours longer after an egg-based breakfast than after a carbohydrate-heavy meal. This is the physiological reason people report feeling full for 4 to 6 hours after eating eggs, versus the familiar energy crash and renewed hunger that follows cereal or toast within 90 minutes. For anyone trying to lose weight fast without entering a state of chronic deprivation, this distinction is enormous. You are not relying on willpower. You are working with your biology instead of against it. And then there is the energy profile of the yolk itself, which is almost never discussed in mainstream fitness or weight loss conversations. Most people are told to fear the yolk because of its fat content, when in reality that fat is precisely what makes eggs so effective as a metabolic fuel. unlike lean protein sources that offer very little usable energy, contributing only about 10 to 20% of their caloric content toward actual fuel. Eggs leverage the natural fats in the yolk to provide approximately 65% usable energy. That translates directly into blood sugar stability, sustained mental focus, and the kind of steady, even energy output that allows you to move through a full day without reaching for stimulants or snacks. This is also the mechanism behind why so many weight loss tips that actually work over the long term recommend replacing processed breakfast foods with whole eggs. The shift is not about restriction, it is about replacing a fuel source that creates metabolic chaos with one that creates metabolic harmony. When your blood sugar is stable, your body is far less likely to store fat, far more likely to access stored fat as energy, and far more equipped to support the hormonal environment that makes eliminate abdominal fat not just possible but sustainable. Block 1 ends here, but we are only getting started on what eggs actually do inside a living, breathing human body. Most people think about food in terms of macronutrients, protein, fat, carbohydrates, and while that framework has its place, it misses the deeper layer of nutrition that separates foods that merely fill you from foods that actively rebuild you. Eggs operate on that deeper layer. Inside every single egg, beyond the protein and the healthy fats, there is a biochemical toolkit that your body uses to perform some of its most critical maintenance operations. And when you understand what those operations are and what happens when they are running poorly, you begin to realize that eggs are not just a convenient breakfast. They are one of the most strategically useful foods you can eat for long-term fitness, mental clarity, hormonal balance, and metabolic health. Let's begin with a process most people have never heard of, despite the fact that it governs an enormous range of functions inside the human body. That process is called methylation, and the simplest way to understand it is to imagine your body employs a maintenance crew that works around the clock. This crew repairs damaged DNA before it can cause cellular dysfunction. It neutralizes and removes harmful compounds, including excess hormones and environmental toxins that would otherwise accumulate and drive inflammation. It manufactures the neurotransmitters your brain depends on for mood regulation, motivation, focus, and emotional resilience. When this crew is well supplied and running efficiently, you feel it: clear thinking, stable energy, emotional balance, a body that recovers quickly and handles stress well. When it is undersupplied or running slow, the effects are just as noticeable: brain fog, fatigue, poor concentration, elevated inflammation, hormonal imbalance, and a liver that struggles to keep up with its own detoxification workload. These are not vague, hard-to-measure outcomes. They are the lived daily experience of millions of adults who have never connected their symptoms to a nutritional gap, and who are unknowingly following meal plans that do nothing to address the root cause. Eggs directly supply the three nutrients this process depends on most: choline, vitamin B12, and folate. What makes this significant is not just that eggs contain these nutrients, but that they contain them in their most bioavailable form, meaning the body can absorb and use them immediately, without the complex conversion steps required when these nutrients come from plant-based sources or synthetic supplements. Choline in particular is something the vast majority of people are chronically underconsuming, despite the fact that it plays a foundational role in liver function, brain development, fat metabolism, and the structural integrity of every cell membrane in the body. A diet deficient in choline is directly associated with fatty liver disease, cognitive decline, and disrupted fat-burning metabolism, all conditions that are rising steadily in populations that have reduced their egg consumption in favor of processed low-fat alternatives. For anyone serious about weight loss, mental health resources and support, or simply functioning at a higher level day-to-day, restoring adequate choline intake through regular egg consumption is one of the most impactful and underappreciated shifts available. Now let's move into something that touches nearly everyone over the age of 35. Though the fitness industry rarely frames it this way, muscle loss is not a problem that begins in old age. It begins in your mid-30s, accelerates through your 40s, and compounds year over year unless you actively intervene. By the time most people realize it is happening, they have already lost a meaningful percentage of the lean tissue that was keeping their metabolism elevated, their joints supported, and their body composition favorable. The challenge is that rebuilding or even preserving muscle requires more than just exercise. It requires the right nutritional signal at the cellular level. That signal is delivered primarily by an amino acid called leucine, and eggs are one of the richest natural sources of it available. Leucine does not simply contribute to muscle repair as one ingredient among many. It functions as the trigger that activates the entire muscle protein synthesis pathway. Without sufficient leucine, the anabolic response to exercise is blunted, recovery is slower, and the metabolic cost of maintaining lean tissue drops, meaning your body becomes progressively more efficient at storing fat and less efficient at burning it. For anyone trying to boost metabolism, improve body composition, or lose weight healthily without sacrificing muscle in the process, ensuring adequate leucine intake is non-negotiable. For eggs per day delivers that signal consistently and reliably, without the digestive burden or hormonal disruption that can come from over-relying on processed protein supplements. The eye health dimension of regular egg consumption is another area where the gap between public perception and nutritional reality is striking. Lutein and zeaxanthin carotenoid antioxidants concentrated in the egg yolk accumulate directly in the macula and retina, the tissues most vulnerable to oxidative damage from prolonged screen exposure, UV radiation, and the natural aging process. Unlike many antioxidants that circulate through the bloodstream and offer generalized protection, these two compounds specifically target ocular tissue, where they act as a biological filter against the wavelengths of light most damaging to retinal cells. The practical implication for anyone who spends significant time looking at screens, which in the modern world is essentially everyone, is that consistent egg consumption contributes meaningfully to the preservation of visual acuity, reduction in glare sensitivity, and improved contrast perception in low-light conditions. This is not a marginal benefit. Age-related macular degeneration is one of the leading causes of irreversible vision loss in adults over 50, and nutritional intervention during the decades before symptoms appear is one of the most effective and accessible forms of prevention available. The fact that this protection comes packaged inside a food that simultaneously supports fat burning, slimming, muscle retention, hormonal balance, and cognitive function makes the egg one of the most comprehensively beneficial single foods in existence, and one that most people are still dramatically undervaluing. There is a question that rarely gets asked in weight loss conversations, and it is arguably the most important one. Are you feeding your brain while you are trying to change your body? Because the two are not separate projects. The mental clarity, emotional stability, and motivational consistency required to sustain any meaningful lifestyle change, whether that means following through on healthy meal plans, maintaining a fitness routine, or simply making better food choices under stress, all depend on a brain that is chemically and structurally supported. And the modern diet, with its emphasis on low-fat processed foods, refined grains, and synthetic meal replacements, is failing the brain in ways that directly undermine the very goals people are working toward. Eggs address this gap in a way that almost no other affordable, accessible food can match, and understanding the mechanism behind it changes how you think about nutrition entirely. Your brain is not simply an organ that runs on glucose. It is a highly specialized biological structure built largely from fat, specifically from a class of fats called phospholipids, which form the membranes of every neuron and play a central role in how efficiently electrical signals travel between brain cells. The quality of those membranes determines the speed and clarity of your thinking, the stability of your mood, the sharpness of your memory, and your capacity to focus under pressure. Egg yolks are one of the densest natural sources of dietary phospholipids available, meaning that when you eat eggs consistently, you are literally feeding your brain the raw materials it uses to maintain and repair its own architecture. This is why the cognitive benefits people report when they begin eating eggs regularly, clearer thinking, faster recall, improved mood, reduced brain fog, are not placebo effects or coincidence. They are the predictable result of supplying a nutrient-deficient tissue with exactly what it needs to function at a higher level. For anyone dealing with mental fatigue, difficulty concentrating, or the kind of low-grade emotional flatness that makes healthy habits feel harder than they should, this nutritional support is not a luxury, it is foundational. Beyond the brain, eggs deliver a portfolio of micronutrients that most people do not associate with this food at all, and whose absence quietly undermines metabolic health, hormonal balance, and physical resilience in ways that are easy to misattribute to aging, stress, or genetics. Vitamin K2, for example, is a nutrient that most adults are significantly deficient in, not because it is hard to absorb, but because it is genuinely rare in the modern food supply. Its primary function is to act as a biological traffic director for calcium, ensuring that this mineral is deposited into bone and tooth tissue where it belongs rather than accumulating in arterial walls and soft tissue where it drives cardiovascular stiffness and dysfunction. Getting adequate K2 is one of the most underappreciated strategies for long-term cardiovascular health, and eggs provide it in a form the body can use directly. Retinol, the performed immediately usable version of vitamin A, is another nutrient present in egg yolks that supports immune resilience, skin integrity, and the health of mucous membranes that form your body's first line of defense against pathogens. This is distinct from the beta-carotene found in plant foods, which must be converted to retinol by the body, in which many people convert inefficiently due to common genetic variations. And then there is vitamin D, a compound so critical to hormonal regulation, immune modulation, mood stabilization, and calcium metabolism that its deficiency has been linked to depression, impaired fat burning, insulin resistance, and accelerated muscle loss, all conditions that make lose weight fast goals feel perpetually out of reach regardless of how hard someone is trying. The question of which eggs to buy is worth addressing practically, because not all eggs are nutritionally equivalent and the difference matters more than most people realize. Pasture-raised eggs, from hens that have genuine outdoor access and a varied natural diet, consistently show higher levels of omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin E, beta-carotene, and vitamin D compared to eggs from conventionally housed hens. The stress hormones present in eggs from caged hens, who live in conditions of extreme confinement, may also have subtle downstream effects on the nutritional profile and inflammatory potential of the food. Pairing pasture-raised with organic certification. gives you the strongest combination, a superior living environment for the hen and certified clean feed free from synthetic pesticides and genetically modified grains. That said, the most important message here is one of pragmatism. If premium eggs are outside your current budget, conventional, eggs are still vastly superior to the processed, sugar-laden, nutritionally hollow breakfast options that occupy most of the supermarket shelf space. The perfect should never become the enemy of the genuinely good, especially when the genuinely good is this powerful. Finally, let's talk about how to eat eggs in a way that maximizes every benefit they offer, because nutrient synergy is real, and the foods you pair with eggs can dramatically amplify their effects. Cooking eggs with leafy greens like arugula or spinach in olive oil or butter allows the fat-soluble antioxidants in those vegetables to be absorbed at rates up to 9 times higher than they would be without the fat present. Adding black pepper to your eggs is not just a flavor choice. Piperine, the active compound in pepper, significantly enhances the bioavailability of carotenoids from the yolk. Tomatoes cooked alongside eggs release lycopene more readily, offering cardiovascular and anti-inflammatory protection that complements the fat-burning and slimming effects of the egg itself. Avocado adds fiber and additional monounsaturated fats that extend satiety, support healthy cholesterol profiles, and contribute to the kind of stable, sustained energy that makes eliminate abdominal fat a realistic outcome rather than a frustrating aspiration. Onions bring sulfur compounds that support liver detoxification pathways, reinforcing the methylation benefits that eggs already provide. When you build a meal around eggs with this kind of intentionality, you are not just eating breakfast, you are constructing one of the most complete, metabolically supportive, brain-nourishing, fat-burning combinations that whole food nutrition can offer. And you are doing it with one of the most affordable and accessible ingredients on the planet. There's a natural solution to speed up your metabolism, control cravings, and support your weight loss journey naturally and effectively. Click the link in the first pinned comment to start transforming your body. If you want to truly transform your body and learn how to lose belly fat healthily, don't stop here. In the next video, I'll share practical strategies and little-known secrets to boost your metabolism and keep the weight off for good. Click now and discover how to take your weight loss to the next level.